another episode of The Biggest Transformation. We are just wrapping up week 3, getting ready to come into week 4. And in the first 2 weeks of the competition, these 12 people have gotten rid of, lost more than 100 pounds. And so we're about ready to hop on with the cast, see how they did with week 3 after the excitement's wearing off, the nerves, they're settling into a routine. How did they do? Are they still mastering their actions? Are they still mastering and taking hold of some of those old habits that at this point are trying to knock on the door and creep back in? I don't know. We'll find out. So let's hop on with the cast, see how they did this week, get their weigh-ins done, and get into another exciting episode of The Biggest Transformation. Psst. If you have not joined this community here on YouTube, make sure before we go any further, take a moment, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give the cast some love. Smash the like button, leave a comment down below. They want to hear from you. Let's jump on with them. It's another weigh-in day.
Yay!
You're up and ready to go.
$189.4.
Miss Dana.
215.6.
All right, Stuart, you are up.
295.0.
295.0. Okay, Cher.
264.2.
264.2. Good job.
And you now?
222.4.
Yes.
Good job. Okay, Steve.
233.8.
233.8. Look at him. He's like on it, ready to go. Okay, Abby.
1.2.
Great. Good morning. You're up.
Wait, here we go. 232.0.
Tammy. 198.2. Okay, Nakia.
357.6.
Okay, Bryce.
391.6.
Yes, good job. You made it into the 300s.
Yes, I did.
And
Almost
with
hit the
that, you
390s.
almost made it into the 380s. All right, we have standings for the week. We have standings for the week. In first place, still with 18.6 pounds lost, 7.9%, Dana. And let me
Good job.
Let me just
Nice, Dana.
Dana, in total, you have lost 18.6 pounds. Awesome job.
That's awesome.
Oh,
In second place with 17.2 pounds lost, 6.85%. Steve, second place.
Steve. Hi, Steve.
In third place with 15.5 pounds lost, 6.2%. Krista Joy.
Yay.
Krista Joy.
Krista.
In fourth place with 25.8 pounds lost, 6.1%. Bryce getting into the 300s. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, Bryce.
Moving up to fourth place with 17.7 pounds lost, 5.66%. Stuart, moving up.
Woo. Yes.
It is, especially between you top 5 right now, like it is super duper close, percentage wise. All right, in sixth place with 16.4 pounds lost, 4.38%, Nakia.
Yay. Yes.
In seventh place with 9 pounds lost, 3.97%. Trisha moved up to seventh place this week.
Sweet.
Wow.
Good job.
Nice, Trisha.
In 8th place with 6.2 pounds lost, 3.5%, Lori. In
Nice.
9th place with 5.6 pounds lost, 2.8%, Wendy. In 10th place with 4.4 pounds lost, 2.65%, Abby. In 11th place with 7 pounds lost, 2.58%, Cher. And in 12th place with 5 pounds lost, 2.45%, Tammy. All right, last week with a total of 47.1 pounds.
Wow. Nice job, guys.
Awesome job last week. Everybody, awesome job. Everybody lost last week, which was amazing. Some of you like, holy freaking cow. Let me just go back and look at a couple of these numbers really quick. So Steve lost 3 pounds last week. Bryce, you lost 10.6. Krista Joy, 4.2. Dana, you lost 4.4. Tammy lost 2, but you had gained 1 last week. So it was a 1 pound since your lowest. Lori, you lost 0.8 last week, but you're still averaging just over 2. If I average it out. Abby, you lost 1 last week. Stuart, 8.7, your biggest week. Cher, 1.8. Trisha, 4.6. Nakia, 4. And Wendy, 2. So awesome job. Combined of 47.1. In total, you have lost 136 pounds in total in 3 weeks. Yay! All right.
My blood pressure went down. I'm averaging at 120 now. So when I was at
Nice.
146.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So this has
amazing.
helped. Yeah.
That's
I'm
awesome.
happy about that.
Good job. And good job. Good job. All right. So today we're going to be talking about emotional eating.
Mhm.
Emotional eating, our good old friend, emotional eating. Yeah. And I am really excited to talk to you about this today because even healthy people struggle with emotional eating. Now, they don't typically struggle with it as bad, and it doesn't typically have the same grip on them, but they do struggle with it. Emotional eating, for most of us, has stemmed from the time we were kids. And emotional eating, a lot of us on here, we do it all. So emotional eating can be when we're like frustrated, right? It can be like, oh, I had a bad day. My boss is a jerk. My wife's a nag. My husband's a freaking rah, 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 rah. So it can be like I'm frustrated and angry eating, right? The kids just broke my favorite heirloom, whatever. It can be emotional eating because we're angry. It can be emotional eating because we're sad. And we can emotionally eat when we are sad or when we're grieving the loss of something or someone. Friday, I found out that my 12-year-old Yorkie, who's laying right here on my robe next to me, she's been so clingy to mommy. Here, I'll show you. I can just right here. Yeah, she follows me down to my office. She's been so clingy since I think she knows, Anyway, I felt that emotional eating thing want to rise as I left the doctor's office, and I thought I knew what I was going into when I went there, and I still was a freaking mess. And then I'm like, Carmen, there are human beings dying of cancer. This is just your dog. Put it in perspective, Anyway, but I love my dog very much, and it was a very sad day. But I came home and I wanted to eat the whole jar of peanut butter. I opened up the peanut butter, I sat it on the counter, and I thought, I can eat as much as I want. I'm in the freedom phase. I am maintaining my weight. I'm gonna have 2 pieces of bread with as much peanut butter as I want. And then I thought, Carmen, is this really wise? This was the old you. Do you really want to cope losing your dog with 2 heavily saturated pieces of bread with peanut butter? Is that really who you are? And I I put the peanut butter back in. And not that I can't have the peanut butter, but it was the point and why I was eating the peanut butter. I was eating the peanut butter because I was using it as a medicine to cope with the feelings I was having about losing my dog. And so it can be because we're grieving loss. Food addictions can also be when we are emotional eating, can also be when we're happy. We had a good day. Let's go celebrate. And so we can emotionally eat when it comes to happy things, right? Like celebrating. And a lot of us have learned this from the time we're kids, right? So this is what parents do unknowingly. Hey, Johnny, you had a great baseball game. Let's go get some ice cream. You got an A on your test. Let's get pizza. So parents, unknowingly, I was totally trained to emotionally eat. I was totally rewarded with food, and I was also punished with food. Think about this one. How many of you have ever been told or told a child, if you don't finish your entire dinner, you're not getting dessert? So what does that train us to do? That trains us to overfill ourselves, to get used to the feeling of overfilling our stomach with the promise of more food. There's all different reasons why we emotionally eat. And this week, one of the things you're going to be doing is you're going to be figuring out what are your triggers, because all of us have triggers when it comes to emotional eating. There are things that trigger us to want to go do it. There's things that trigger us, whether it's celebrating, whether it's frustrated, whether it's, mindless evening emotional eating. There's an emotion tied to sitting there watching TV and eating. It's recognizing what are your triggers. What triggers you to want to emotionally eat? What are the things that happen on your daily or weekly basis that make you go, F it, where's the chips? Where's the ice cream? Where's the drive-through? Where's the pizza? Where's the whatever your drug of choice is when it comes to food? Most of the world is walking around self-medicating, trying to make ourselves feel better with food. And the crummy part about it is, does it really work? Because when we turn to food to cope, when we turn to food to self-medicate, let me ask you, after we're all done, and when we struggle with a pretty severe weight issue, like most of us are coming from, most of the time it's not one cookie, it's not two cookies, it's a whole sleeve. It's a whole row of Oreos. It's a whole bag of chips. It's a whole pint or half of a gallon of ice cream. What are those triggers for you? What are the things that make you just want to do that? And, again, if we're being honest, how do we feel after we've binged? How do we feel after we've eaten a whole bunch of things that we know we shouldn't have eaten? Does it really feel great after, like 5 minutes after, 10 minutes after? What typically follows that emotional eating? What feeling? You guys are like, we're all muted. You can unmute yourselves.
Guilt,
Guilt,
shame,
shame,
Disappointment in myself.
disappointment in yourself. Yep.
Like, why did I do that? That wasn't worth it.
Yep. Why did I do that? It wasn't worth it. Yeah.
I feel like a failure. Can I
Feel
do
like a
that?
failure. 100%.
And then the food actually makes you feel worse.
And then the food makes you feel worse. Then it's a cycle, right? You felt
Yes.
bad, you ate to feel better, and now you feel worse again. So now you have the emotion of why you ate in the first place. Then it's the emotion of you're a loser or a failure or what the heck because you ate. And here's the thing. This is really perspective. And this thought, for some reason, you're going to hear me say this so many times throughout this season, because this really is the perspective that I give myself. Whatever it is that I'm using to self-medicate, whatever food it is I'm using to emotionally try to put a Band-Aid on whatever emotion's going on. Do you know the next day it winds up as a steaming pile of poop in the toilet?
yeah.
The next day,
that fudge brownie that you had to have winds up as a steaming pile of caca in the toilet. But this week, you're going to make a list of what this is going to be part of your homework. What are your triggers? And then when the trigger happens, because the trigger will always happen, you're never going to get to a place where you're 100% not triggered. You can learn to not be triggered by some of them, but when that trigger happens, when you get in a fight with your spouse, what will you do instead of eat? So it's making a predetermined plan of when I get triggered, what will I do? How will I react when this happens again? How will I react when I have a bad day at work? What will I choose to reward myself with when I have my next best month in business? And the thing with emotional eating, everything about us being overweight is emotional. Everything about us being overweight is emotional. Nothing about eating and binging and all the stuff and medicating with food, none of it's logical. None of it's logical. If I were to sit down with each one of you individually and say, hey, is that donut really going to make you feel better? All of you logically could say no. All of us logically could say, yeah, I shouldn't do that. But in the moment, it's not logic that's winning. It is our emotion. Being overweight is 100% emotional. And it's about really doing our best to start being logical about it. Logical. Like, this does not make sense. Me eating half a jar of peanut butter because my dog is dying did not make sense. It made no sense, and it wasn't going to make me feel better. It was going to be a steaming pile of caca, sticky caca, in the toilet the next day. Because like, really, you had to throw in that adjective. It's true. All right, so here's what I want to talk with you guys about today. Okay. Your question for this week is, have you ever felt like no one understood your weight loss struggle?
Yeah, I would say there's been definitely times where I don't think people understand the struggle with the weight loss, and from different perspectives, like, why can't you just do something about it? Why is it not working when you do try to do things? Why have you have you gotten where you are? I'm concerned about you because, you're going to get, you're walking down the path of, health problems. Like, I don't already know all these things, because obviously I know that, and it's not something I've ever not tried to work on. But yeah, I think people don't understand what's all involved. I think I didn't always understand what's all involved in this process, which is one of the reasons I wanted to be a part of this, is because I know it was time to deal with all of these things that we're talking about, and really kind of get to the root of where some of those, especially what we're talking about this week, where did those come from? Where did these triggers, which have just become habits? I mean, and that's what I've looked at recently, is it's just habits. I can stop those habits, and make those changes to actually be successful long term. But yeah.
So I echo actually what Wendy has said, but something I've realized in this challenge, the biggest thing that I would say is a struggle, is that people just think, oh, it's just a diet. Like, my chiropractor, great person, great professional, but he just keeps talking about, like, well, this diet you're on. I'm like, no. When you're trying to transform and change your life, it's not just a diet. Even when this journey started, I was actually home visiting family and friends, and even they would talk about this, like, oh, well, you're just eating this special diet. I'm like, when you're trying to transform your life, it's not just making like better choices to have a diet, to eat a good diet. It's like, no, I'm trying to actually reprogram my life. It's really what I'm trying to do. And I feel like so many people, because we have this diet industry out there, they just don't understand, when you really want to change your life, change the way you've been programmed to think about food, they just don't understand. But we celebrate everything with food. So when you start talking about making better choices or eating healthy, so many people are like, well, it's just your diet. You can start again tomorrow. No, it's not just a diet for me. At least that's where I'm at right now in my journey of life. So it's really frustrating when people just don't understand. Like, I'm trying to actually go in and rewire how I think and how I behave around food because I want to improve my life. So that's been really challenging for me.
All right, for me, the big thing is, yes, I've felt that before, and when I think back on it, it's all about taking personal responsibility. I always thought that people didn't understand because I had more weight to lose than most people, and they didn't understand how hard it was. But at the end of the day, they all were just rooted in excuses. So, yeah, just I mean, I always use the excuse. Well, I've had success in other areas of my life. I just can't with weight. Well, it's the exact same muscle. Just for whatever reason before I wasn't acting the muscle, and so at the end of the day, it's just all about excuses. So it's easy to make excuses of why people think this or why people think that, but it's just all my junk. So it's been good to go through this process and deal with some of that stuff. And so, as with anything, it's a muscle. So whether it's a physical muscle or an emotional muscle or a mental muscle, you just keep doing it, and the more you do it, the easier it is. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I've been actually really lucky. Most of the people in my life are really supportive, but I'm very selective about who I talk to about it. So anyone that I feel wouldn't be understanding or wouldn't get the struggle, I just don't even let on that there is an issue. So I think that I don't even go there. And those people probably don't understand, because I know they probably wouldn't understand, or they might be critical. So yeah, I just keep it to myself. I sort of hide. If there's a struggle, I'll sort of retreat, and I don't let them in to even have an opinion. And I will gravitate to people I know are familiar with the struggle. They know what it's like to have, the Reese's peanut butter cups sitting there, and you're like, you need to eat those right now, kind of thing, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's what I do. I just don't open myself up to those people. So
And
they
how
would
does-
never know.
How does that feel to isolate yourself like that?
It's hard because then I feel I want to sort of, on the one hand, I guess on the one hand, appear like there isn't a problem, I'm fine. And then you do isolate yourself, and then you feel like you're kind of alone on the journey. Yeah.
Hello. For me, I think kind of like share, I never shared. I always kept it to myself. So I was very private about it. Not until our first weigh-in did my husband know what I weighed. I mean, it was like that private to me. So no, I don't think they understood because I didn't share it until now. And I think so far, my family is more supporting than they've ever been because they get it more.
Yeah, for me, I think it's not so much right now, and as I've mentioned before, I've been going down this road for about 3 years almost now, and so a lot of people who haven't seen me in a while will see me today and say, "Hey, you look great," because I'm less than right now than I've been in most of the last 20 years. But I think, going back a few years when I was at my highest weight, people would say, "Oh, why don't you just lose 50 pounds or something like that?" It's like, well, if you've never struggled with it, that's like me saying to you, "Why don't you gain 50 pounds by Christmas?" Because I could do that, but I certainly have done things in the past that you can gain weight quickly but if you haven't walked that walk, I always got very frustrated and about how can you dispense that advice if you've never walked that walk before.
I would say for sure I have felt like people don't understand because I've always been really thin my whole life, but I had all the habits of a true fat girl. Like, it's a miracle, and I can't take credit for it. It's a miracle, and I've always been so thankful that I wasn't heavier than I was. But then with life and age, all those habits just caught up with me, So yeah, I would say I don't talk about it to many people because they would be like, oh no, you're fine. But inside, I was disgusted with who I have let myself become. So, and it's not even just the weight, it's the mentality, and it started to consume my mind. And so finally, I just thought, why let it consume my mind? I have so many greater things that I should be thinking of than, oh man, I really need to get off these last 20 pounds, you know? And I don't have any clothes that fit and things like that. So yes, I definitely think that people have not understood.
Okay, Krista Joy.
You know, I was thinking about what other people were saying, and you know, my journey in the last several years has been so chaotic, and I feel like, yeah, I've always been a little heavier, but it was, you know what, I can, guess what, I can chalk this up to cancer, menopause, you know, having so many surgeries, and you know, people don't really approach, they don't have to worry about it. And I think so. It was like 2.5 years ago. I finally went to one of my surgeons and I said, I have this thing. It's really weird. What's going on? And he's like, oh, well, it's a surgical hernia. Just lose 40 pounds and then we'll do the surgery. And that was 2.5 years ago. And I'm like, he's like, can you just do that? No problem. You think, obviously it was a problem. I can't do it. And now it's more than 40 pounds to get down where he wants. So, you know, thinking about doctors and how they don't always quite understand. And yeah. And then I think also how there are people who, you know, they are also in that old mindset. And so they haven't changed their habits yet. And so I think, like, the last 3 Sundays after church, people are like, okay, well, where do you want to go for lunch? I'm like, we're going home to have the leftovers because we have all this food in the fridge. Like, why would we go out? You know, I'm not ready to make decisions about eating out at a restaurant yet, and especially when we have lots of food that I have planned that are at home. And so it's really hard to say no, because it was such a pattern. We did it every week, and it was also a social thing. We had friends that we did it with. And I'm like, well, nope, we're going home. Yeah, it's just you feel like everyone else is in your old patterns and you're moving on. And so they don't get it.
Good morning, everybody. Oh yeah, I'm on mute. I think I don't want to receive it as this is a struggle for me, but just up in front, what's going on. You know, I work out with my tribe sisters, and we've been together for 3 years working out. And I think when I went back and I was so excited to share, like I'm in this program and I'm working on, you know, removing, you know, my fat. And some of the ladies was like, you look good. You don't need to do that, you know? And when I noticed what they were saying, and then, you know, I just said, you know, I'm just going to be an example. And the reason why I chose to do this is because, yes, we've been working out 3 years together, but we all still got a belly. So instead of me just talking about it, I made a decision to just be an example. I almost allowed it to be a struggle, but I made a decision that I will be an example and to be able to impact the world.
Nakia.
Oh my goodness, all the good things. I'm here just okay, so I know I'm not alone, right? Because when I share things that have happened, so many people, at least in their own way, because you know, in these past 4 years, I've kind of learned to interpret and what people saying as them doing what they feel like is best for me. So as they support or what have you. But I think for me, the biggest thing has been how I see myself right, because I've identified as the big girl for so long, because I have literally been like over 200 pounds since I was like 10 years old, and I'm tall. So you guys are probably the only people that, that realize that I weigh as much as I weigh. And like I said, I'm tall. So I tell myself, and other people tell me, that I look good, and I recognize that it is like there's so much emotion. And when you're talking about different triggers, that I realized I lost it, that like yelling is a trigger for me. I didn't even realize it, like when other people yell. And so like I not understanding that I was sensitive to that, and having pushed down my emotions for so long, like for most of my life, just stuffed them down like as far as they could go, so I didn't feel anything. And now allowing myself to like feel my feelings and not eat my feelings has been like probably one of the biggest challenges. Recognizing that the people around you want the best for you in their own way, and sharing this journey with the people around me has allowed another like sub community to form of people who are on their own path of growth, and allowing them to do theirs, and being willing to lock arms with you and lock arms with them, so like we can all do better.
Bryce.
Yeah, no, definitely can echo everybody's experience of people not understanding it. Just the other day at work, I had coworkers that, they were all going to get this place that's like Chipotle locally, that, it's healthy food, but the quantities weren't in my containers for what I had planned for the day. So I couldn't switch to, doing that with them, because even though it was healthy, it didn't fit my containers. And so, having to deal with, oh, come on, but it's healthy. Why don't you want to get it? Because you got to remember, this is an interview where I stood up at one point because they asked, do I like food? And I just went, did you not see this? I didn't get this body by not liking food.
Okay, you were last but not least, Lori.
Okay. My story, I resonate a lot with Abby's story. I wasn't always big. I actually grew into it with age and time. Bad habits, a lot of bad habits. My family is supportive, but I, like a lot of people, kept things secret. Like nobody knew my weight until I just weighed in with the show. And so I decided to do this with the fact that I wanted to have a life change. I wanted to do everything that I was supposed to do so that I could make myself healthier. And my problem is my family in a lot of ways, because they're supportive, but also we celebrate everything. And we celebrate with food and drinks all the time. That's one of my struggles. Is I do have a support system, but it comes with a lot of flack from people, because they think that I'm not joining in family gatherings, and so it makes it hard for people to understand what I'm actually doing. Like, you can lose weight, but why can't you have drinks and hang out and eat? They don't understand that it is a life choice, that you're making a lot of changes.
And as we're coming into week 4 and you're starting to recognize the areas that have, because listen, we all have them. We all have the areas. We all have things that, whether it's get-togethers, social pressure, social environment, stress, we all have triggers. And as you just being aware of them, you're gonna start to recognize them. And as you start to shine light on them, you're gonna start taking your power back. And just knowing that they're there. See, most of the time I noticed the theme today. I don't talk about it. I keep it hidden. I keep it secret. I don't go there unless they're gonna somehow, whatever. For most of us, this weight has been a hidden thing. And the more you keep it hidden, Trisha, share. Those of you who have not shared this journey yet, hear me. When you refuse to shine light, when you stand on that rock and say, no, I'm going to keep this hidden, I'm not going to share this, it has power over you. When you keep something hidden, you don't have power, it has power. It's only when then you let it come to light and you say, yes, here are my struggles, but here's where I'm overcoming, that you actually have the power. And this is about taking our power back, taking the power away from the food and back to us, taking the power away from the habits and back to us, because we are more powerful than, you know, any food, any emotional eating, any trigger. So it's finding that power and taking it from what has had power over us for all these years, and for some of us, decades.
47.1 pounds this week, grand total of 148.4 pounds in the last 3 weeks. That is crazy. Oh, they were doing so amazing. So proud of them. And you know, we came off last week of week 2 where weight loss slowed down a little bit. I mean, they had a crazy week on week 1, losing over 80 pounds. And so the scale stabilized. It flattened out. And for many of them to keep going, to not fall into old habits, to not allow themselves to get sidetracked with all the things that have sidetracked them in the past. How do you not watch that and get inspired? And so next week is going to be one of those episodes that for the cast is going to be life-changing. There's going to be so much breakthrough. And so make sure to mark your calendars, set your timers, and be back here next week at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the episode. Your support means your comments, your encouragement, you sharing their journey means so much to the cast. So make sure to smash the like button, comment your encouraging words down below, and we will see you back here same time next week for another episode of The Biggest Transformation.